I think a lot of Americans were forced to go to church by their parents, by their mom mostly. And because of that, they adopt certain things and see certain things because it's ingrained in them from early childhood. I think marriage might be over. It's already been declared that it's over. And a lot of people don't understand that this country was founded by a lot of religious people. Yeah, forget all the stuff about the Masons and Freemasons and all that sort of stuff. The run-of-the-mill American back in the day, in the colonies, were all religious. Every single one of them. And what's really crazy is, so were the black people. I bring that up because the foundation was religious freedom for this country, right? It was religious freedom, but everybody was religious. They have their own religion, and at one point, the governors of the states were actually religious people. They don't teach you American history like a historian would learn American history. They teach you propaganda. Oh, everybody was nice, and oh, the Indians were bad, and oh, the Native Americans were bad, and oh, the Native Americans were Mongolian. They don't teach you that they declared most of the Native Americans to be black. They don't tell you that in American history. So the idea that most black people today come from slavery is pure propaganda. They don't tell you that. And so they can't actually give you a real discussion about reparations or anything like that because you don't know who you're talking about. And they keep conflating it as we'll never give reparations because it's going to come from the government and taxpayers. No, we know exactly who the slave owners were. This is not the script that I wrote. Marriage is over. Marriage is a religious institution. It was adopted by non-religious people simply because they went to church, forced to go to church as kids by their mom, right? That is 90% of the story with everybody who either still goes to church or has a bunch of belief systems ingrained in them. It's from church. It's not from school. It's from church. Because you could change schools, but you always went to church. And church kind of said the same thing, right? Depending on your particular flavor of religion. This is also why we have these weird, outdated views about quote unquote dating. And they don't even know where the term came from and they don't even know what it means, but they want to have girlfriend and boyfriends, and people who have never had a girlfriend or boyfriend are weird. Oh my God, that is so strange. You're 25 and you've never had a boyfriend? That's strange. Hold on. What's a girlfriend? What's a boyfriend? Do you know do you know where that came from? Also, I have a list here of the real reason that marriage is over. And it's not just because there's a whole bunch of divorce going on, because there are people who still get married regardless of the divorce rates. I mean to say there are still men who get married because of divorce rates. And the whole 50% of marriages end in divorce is not true. It's that they put in there the people who are divorced 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So those people keep getting married and they keep getting divorced. So the 10, 20% divorce rate is conflated to be 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. It's just like the black women are single moms with 15 children. No, they're not. Most black women have one child. It's not a compliment, but a lot of them have a child and they see their mistake and they quit. These are the records from the food stamp, WIC, welfare, Section 8 people. Most black women have one child on the programs. The politicians show you pictures in their campaigns of a black woman with 6 children, but 90% of them have one, just one. Now, I want to concentrate on the fatherlessness in the country. Not just that men aren't marrying women, because it's the men control marriage, not women. Women can say all they want to. Men control marriage. Period. Hands down, 100%. If you propose to your man and he said yes and you all got married, you're going to get divorced. Or you already got divorced. That's not a marriage. I don't know what that is, but it's not a marriage. And remember, the only reason probably that you got married is because you went to church as a child. And when you were a child, the church said you should go forth and be fruitful and multiply. And this is why a husband shall cleave to his wife and his wife shall cleave to him. This is what your church said for about 20 years. Even if you're an atheist now, you went to church when you were a kid. It used to be when I was young, atheists knew more about the Bible than most Christians because they had to decide actively that they were going to actively not believe in God. Now they're just lazy. They don't know anything. They just don't believe anything and they don't know anything. But it used to be an atheist could beat a Christian in a religious debate. Why? Because they went to church probably more and paid attention more than a lot of Christians. So there's an epidemic of fatherlessness in the United States, and it is all races. It has nothing to do with black people. A lot of stuff is hoisted on black people, and what's really annoying is that black women believe that they are the biggest victims. We're going to circle back to that. The courts have released findings from experts in the field. The fatherlessness epidemic from all races is not men shirking their responsibilities, but women running them off for various reasons, including public assistance. They can't be around a man. Feminism. For some reason, black women has taken on the mantle of, yes, we must be free of our man who's controlling us. Black men have never controlled black women. The people who this argument is for are rich white women. This is where this came from. It's even still today. It's rich white women who are bored with their lives, so they want to divorce their husband and take half of his money, or if actually 75% of his money, and run off with the pool boy. That's what they want. But they have hoisted on this idea that quote unquote men are controlling them. And for some reason, black women, blinded by this lust for power, thought that they could divorce their husband or man and take half of his money. What money? What money? Black people are the poorest people in the nation. What money are you taking? Who are you listening to that you have put feminism into your heart? And now we're seeing that the people actually in control of the inner circle of feminism are actually lesbian. So now that is trickling out to all women in the United States, and there is a bevy of lesbianism in the black community. It is unheard of. Why is it unheard of? Because our culture, black people have a different culture in the United States than white people, but the liberals keep trying to convince them that they are all the same when we're not. All the foreigners come over here and they maintain their culture, and nobody tries to convince them that they're the same as white people from Sweden. No, we're not the same. Black people are hyper masculine. They even came out with a study that said that black people in general, men and women, have more testosterone than all other groups. This is why they're better at sports and what have you, because the testosterone gives you better muscle recovery, and so you are able to do activity constantly, physical activity constantly. This is also true for black women. This is also why black women are lowest on the attractiveness charts and studies, because they look manly to begin with. It used to be in the 50s, 40s, 30s that black women went out of their way to be feminine, but now they're not. They're just like, oh, feminism has told us we need to be separate from our men, and we listen to it. And also there's women running off their men because of generational trauma from their single mother that they grew up with, who had trauma from her bad decisions, but she doesn't accept that, and so she says stuff like, all men are terrible. And she feeds that not only to her daughters, but to her sons as well. So then you get kids who are not good citizens. I want you to note that single fathers, period, white or black, generate stellar citizens that you would want to live next to. And what's really crazy is they did studies. They studied single fathers, single mothers, and married couples, and mixed houses where a woman with children marries a man who becomes a stepfather, and that's even worse than a single mother. So biological father and mother is just as good as a single father, period. And what's crazy is single father in Black is more successful than any other group, probably because they are motivated to do well for their children, to give their children a better life. When they did a study about separated parents and where the father is still in the life of the children and has visitation, all that sort of stuff, they found that the Black men actually spent the most quality time and spent the most money on the child. The courts order child support, and it's through them. You do not pay directly to the mom. You pay it through the court. So they take their cut right off of the top and then send the rest to the mom, who then is not accountable for any dollar. She can do with it whatever she wants to. And now women see that as a source of income, and legally they have to report that on their income. Child support is income, according to the IRS. So this, I'm going to put you on child support, comes back and bites them on the toe, and they never put two and two together and say, I'm shooting myself in the foot by going to court and putting my baby daddy on child support. I want you to note that they also did a survey, and they found that Black people generally do not go to court, but the children are well taken care of because the father takes care of the children directly. And there's a lot of couples who just have an understanding that these are women who are not vindictive or whatever and actually care about the child. And so the father visits and buys the child whatever he wants, spends a lot of time with the child, however much time he wants. There is no once a week or once a month or whatever visitation is. When they do it outside of the court, it is actually far more successful for the child. The government is never going to do something that is actually going to be beneficial and optimal to the people, because the government has to please special interest groups and all sorts of stuff like that. And for any woman who thinks that they are going to get a great deal out of a court, this is why marriage rates are at like 30%. They're down by 60% since the 1950s. No, 1970s. Down by 60%. So there would be something like 3 times as many people nationwide getting married today if the rates had kept up. In fact, the numbers would be ridiculous today. Instead of thousands, it would be millions of people getting married. Women under 35 consider it perfectly fine to cohabitate with unmarried men and think it is normal, with no idea that it is considered a very bad form to be considered a lady, respectable, honorable, some woman with a good head on her shoulder. They don't understand that living with a man is bad. And what's really funny is they then try to rationalize it with people. What do you mean? This is what everybody does. No, not everybody does that. Only certain types of women do that. I'll leave it at that. Women are perfectly fine now at all ages, not just young, to simply engage in carnal pleasures without any hope or even idea of being married nor having children. They're putting their daughters on birth control at 13. There is a very high chance that you will not carry a child to term. If something bad happens to you at the age of 13 and you're a girl, do you know what I'm talking about? I can't mention it on YouTube because YouTube censors everybody and thinks it's bad form to say the actual words. This is also why they downgrade a lot of my videos. Women having kids without being married borders on a mystery in 2025. with all of the preventative measures at their fingertips, including almost permanent prevention, to Plan B. There are at least 100 different ways. I think the count was something I had 90 something of how to prevent pregnancy, how to prevent getting pregnant, period. But women are having children regardless of that. Even come out with the audacity to say taxpayers should fund me free of pregnancy prevention measures because it should be a right. A right does not start when it is imposed on somebody else to work and give you their money for free. You understand that? A right is something that you do by yourself, alone, and it does not impact anybody else, and it doesn't harm them. This does not mean that if somebody says something and you are offended, that it's not a right. You are offended because you got offended, because you are of certain nature that probably can't tolerate truth or can't tolerate touchy subjects. And the only reason they are touchy subjects is because you are a touchy person. But imposing your will on somebody else to make them have to go to work, generate money, and pay you the money, that is not a right. This is why healthcare is not a right. This is why travel is not a right. This is why electricity is not a right. We do have laws stating that you should provide water for free to drink. You don't have to give people bottles of water, but you should have a fountain or offer a drink of water in your store. A lot of states have that. But for the most part, stuff that costs money is not a right for you to have. This is why a lot of dating fails, because women see it as a right that a man should pay. That's my right. That's not a right. It's not a right when you actually have a job and literally you drove yourself to the place. That's not a right. I cannot tolerate injustice, and injustice does not incorporate social justice. That's a misnomer. That's actually Marxism. Women having kids without being married borders on a mystery. Why would you have a child today? We're not in the 1820s. We're in the 2020s. There is absolutely no reason for you to get pregnant and then stay pregnant all the way up until the child is born. It's very strange that black women internalize the feminism, which doesn't apply to them at all, but doesn't internalize the abortion claim or argument or notion that it is a right. I don't know how that works. Somebody please tell me how that makes sense. White women, rich white women, saying that they need to be free of man and his control, although man has done everything to make women free, like inventing the plumbing, washing machine, toilet, vacuum. Now we got robots. So cooking and cleaning is almost about to be obsolete for a human to do, because now we have robots that can do housework. It costs money, but we can do it. You can afford it now. You do know this? I'll get you that video soon. I'm sorry. Women today are trying to normalize trading being with them for carnal pleasure for money, even demanding hundreds of thousands of dollars or gifts you would give to your wife on her 40th anniversary just for dating her. So a woman who wants to go on a date, a first date, is demanding a 3-star dinner. This is something you do on your 40th wedding anniversary. 40th wedding anniversary. But they want that without even knowing it. This is so that they can actually get over on the other women and say, look what my man did. No, look what this man did for me. I control everything. I can get a man to spend thousands of dollars on me that I don't even know. I'm the Queen of Sheba compared to the rest of you women, and that's what it's about. It has nothing to do with actually the money or anything. And yes, there is a woman who charted not having to spend money on food for 2 years on the dating app. She had a spreadsheet of all of the men that she had been with and all of the food that she had eaten and how much each date costs. I want you to know that the rest of the world no longer buys their women food on dates. They don't spend money on dates. The man buys whatever he's going to have and the woman buys whatever she has. And that's completely their culture. The entire rest of the world. The women here are still trying to live in the 1800s. And I mean 1800s, where they were virgins, didn't have any job, and had a chaperone wherever they went. There are women who are trying to portray this, but having had carnal activities with thousands of men, that a man should be spending money on her when we live in 2025. We don't live in 1825. And I'm harping on that is because it's no longer that. There are a lot of areas that say, okay, we don't do that anymore. Period. Don't even ask. Don't come here talking about you need to. There's all of these videos on TikTok talking about you need to buy, give me money for it so I can do my nails. I don't even know you. That is something I would do for my wife of 50 years. Otherwise, and she's retired and no longer makes money, but she lives under my roof. So I still want to take care of her and make sure that she looks pretty for me, not for other people. That's what that's about. But again, they're not doing it for the money. They're not doing it for you. They're doing it so they could show it off to other women. That's what this is about. Mandatory DNA testing is sweeping across the nation because of the behavior of women. Hold on. While the courts and lawyers get a cut of child support and alimony, and this is the reason for the staggering divorce rates, the marriage rates have so fallen that it's cutting into their money, making schemes so they are scrambling to put people back together. However, the mandatory DNA, denying child support, denying alimony, and even denying parental rights for married husbands whose DNA shows it is not their child, and placing full responsibility is also coming down. So no longer can you cheat on your husband, get pregnant by some other man. Again, why are you getting pregnant? How's that possible? But then claiming you are married to man A and it's his responsibility. And a lot of women are coming out and saying the reason she's cheating is because the husband is a provider. That is such a terrible psychological term. It's used completely different from actually the Bible, which is where it was originated. And the Bible said you should provide, a man should provide. This was 3,000 years ago when a man had a wife and probably 15 other women living under his roof. And he had to be able to provide for everybody in the household, including all of the children and all of the servants. He had an estate. That's what it's talking about. It's not talking about spending money on you getting your nails done. That's crazy. But now the courts are saying, we want to keep people together or put people back together. And the way to do that is to make sure that women who are derelict are responsible for their ways, so we can bring women who are normal, decent, back to the forefront so that people can get married, stay married, and the ones who just fall by the wayside, then they can get divorced. We can't have a 60% drop in marriage rates and still make billions of dollars. I've told you about the courts completely denying one-night stands as for child support. Why? Not because it's one woman and one man. It's one woman with hundreds of men. And the court has to spend the money for each DNA test, and the taxpayer has to come out of there. And so they don't have a budget. And that's one woman. One woman, hundreds of DNA tests. No, stop. Was it a one night stand? Yeah. All right. You're excused. You're dismissed. No, nobody gets child support. You need to change your ways. We're not going to have the taxpayer. We don't have the budget for it. We don't have the money to test hundreds of men. Hundreds of men. It's crazy. So the courts are trying to put people back together, and they're trying to do it like that. So the punishment is that this notion that women run off the man, and the man is not in the child's life, and also all of this degenerate behavior is trying to be swept aside. My question is it too late? Will this work? The idea is that the good women are going to show up magically out of nowhere, and that women who sleep around, or women who live with unmarried men together as husband and wife without being married, are going to vanish. In the cities, I think that is the thing, that you sleep around and that you go live with some guy that you're not married. Cohabiting, shacking up. It's all the rage, right? It's not, I don't think it's, so first of all, that does not make you a decent woman. You're not a decent woman if you do that. And the courts are trying to get decent women back into vogue, back into fashion. Just look at your stars that you worship. They've got at least 20 guys that they've been with, each one. And that is arranged. They don't walk down the street and see Johnny Depp and be all like, hey, Johnny Depp, you want to go together? I kind of like it. No, that's not how that happens. They sit around a table and be all like, okay, we need to get Johnny Depp's career back into motion. What can we do? That's how that works. We need to put Kim Kardashian back on the map. What can we do? That's how that works. So they got 20 guys they've been with, and you're worshiping these people. And most of them are not even talented. They have AI do a lot of stuff now. AI has been around for a long time. Not just, at least in movies, it's been around for a long time. It didn't just happen. And now, I don't know if you knew this, but in The Matrix, Jackie Chan was supposed to appear in The Matrix, but they were going to have him not only film his scenes where he's doing kung fu or whatever, or wushu, but they also wanted to require him to put on a mocap suit, go to the studio, and do all of the moves also. And they wanted to keep that and have that so that they would have the rights to all of his karate move or wushu moves. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. AI. So then they could splice together a complete choreographed fight scene from AI. So the stuff that you see on the TV or in the movie probably isn't real. We already know that the people don't even look like that. Kim Kardashian doesn't look like she looks on the picture. You know, and I'm not talking about Photoshop. I'm talking about if she was walking down the red carpet, she doesn't look like. There's tremendous amounts of filters going on. You remember Hillary Clinton? And she started glitching on the Air Force One, and then she glitched out and then came back perfect, speaking perfectly. I want you to recall all this. So, do you think the courts are going to be able to put people back together? I do not think so. Thank you all for watching. Please like the video.